I think the answer is 2 to the 5th. And then she does it in this magenta color.
Which is the same answer as we got for the other problem. So this is the prime factorization of the number 32. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Bob, and goodbye.
Okay, so it turns out there's really good research. Steven Pinker at Harvard. I bet a lot of people know that name because he does a lot in cognitive science. Has figured out that a lot of first-time learners will ask a friend for help rather than their teacher. And that's great if you have the right friends. You sit at lunch with the right friends, you talk about school, that's great. But if you don't have the right friends, that's not such a good plan. So my sense is, while kids are home, this is a great time to challenge them to design any tutorial with screencasting software, which is what this was created by. It's free. This was Jing. This one was Jing, Jing. And I don't have time to go through a tutorial on screencasting. There's plenty of tutorials on the web. I bet many of your people have used screencasting. But I believe one of the most powerful uses of this tool is to have kids help kids learn by creating tutorials. And just to give you a sense, I know this girl. She actually presented at my summer conference where you did, Jackie. And this took her 3 hours to put together a 3-minute tutorial because she had to rethink how to present the material. She tested it with a friend. She realized that when she used a prime number as one of the first 2 factors with one example, her friends all tried to use a prime number as one of the first 2 factors. That's why she did it twice. And you can see in the second set, there are no prime numbers in the first division of the factors. So she really thought this through. And again, I think when kids are home, you need 2-3 hours to think about designing a good tutorial. So another opportunity to build community, link kids together, but they don't even have to be there at the same time. Just build a library of student tutorials. Okay, next idea.
Alan, I just want to interrupt quickly to let you know that one of our participants, Jeffrey Sniffen, uses Minecraft with his students to do a couple of different projects. I'm just gonna go to his He uses Minecraft to design buildings for belief system temples and government buildings for the civilization they create. It's a year-long project. And CoSpaces is also a great tool for building. I guess CoSpaces is another program.
Yeah, no, that's does he see? Well, later we'll have to ask him if the change in the media to Minecraft leads some of his students to do more creative work and more work effort than if a different media had been used for the same assignment. I'm assuming he just heard that.
He probably did. Jeffrey, feel free to unmute your mic if you'd like and share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I don't want to interrupt the presentation going on, though. So I don't mind typing into the chat for the answer while we let Alan continue with his presentation.
Okay.
Well, just the one quick. What do you have any students who go beyond expectations when you move to the medium like Minecraft?
Yeah, of course. The kids, it's a choice for the kids. We give them different options in how they want to design their buildings. Some use like Google SketchUp, some use other 3D online programs. Minecraft is one of their options, and a lot of kids who are very comfortable with that medium will use that. And they'll go way above and beyond, of course, because they're very comfortable with that medium, they'll use it. And then what we do is, because we do physical portfolios of their finished work, they do screenshots of it instead of doing a video with a narration. Yeah. This time around, if we're going to be stuck at home for the whole year, they're going to be designing a website. So there is where the opportunity to do a narration in the video will come into play.
Wow. And you share those with all the kids? See all the kids?
Yeah, each one of them have to design their own civilization from scratch to mirror the ancient civilizations that we study in class. So by the end of the year, they have finished work, and we study architecture and that sort of thing. So they'll get a chance to compare their work to belief system temples of the ancient world, and then they'll also compare their government buildings to some of the forms and things that we see in the ancient world as well.
Wow, very cool. Good, nice work. Seriously, nice work.
Thank
I'd
you.
love to see that one day. Maybe we can stay in touch.
Yes.
By the way, from there, given what you said, I'm going to jump to something called Flipgrid. And I wish I had asked how many people use Flipgrid. Flipgrid's free. It's an app. Go to the App Store, download Flipgrid, go to the website, get a teacher account, and then you can create lessons. So just to give you an example, this is Stacy Roshan. She's a friend of mine. She's an AP calculus teacher outside of Washington, D.C. And Stacy had to teach an online class against her will because her private school couldn't fit in another section of calculus given kids various schedules. So she had to offer this online. And her kids did better on the AP exam in the online class than her face-to-face class. And she was stunned, significantly better. So I want to show you some of her tricks that she used. One of them is Flipgrid. So this is an example of what Flipgrid looks like when an assignment is complete. Flipgrid really, in a way, creates this YouTube channel for each assignment where your students show up in this grid. It's really nice because it organizes all the student work in one place. And they use the camera on their cell phone to record their work. So it can be anything in the world. It can be themselves, it can be out their window, interviewing their family, it can be anything. In this case, kids did problems in calculus, writing them down, just using their cell phone. So here, I'll give you an example. I don't know if you can see this, but it's this student is explaining her calculus problem. They all have different problems. It's the same concept in calculus, but they're given different problems. So what's fascinating are the view counts, again, with Flipgrid. And this one's been seen 136 times. So the students are the only ones that have access. 136 times. There's like 20 kids in the class. And what this means is that kids watch over and over again. When kids can see other kids' work in a community building tool like Flipgrid, it's amazing, in this case, how many calculus kids will watch all the other kids' work. You're building community. Again, it's asynchronous, any time of the day, right? And not only that, but in following years, you can take some of the best examples and use those as tutorials. But Flipgrid is just another example of building community online while people are home. And the real focus here is I get to see what all my peers are doing. So maybe we can just ask, anybody using Flipgrid that has another example of building community like this, where everybody can see everyone's work?
Nothing in the chat yet.
Nothing in the chat.
We have a couple of thumbs up, though. That's
Flipgrid's
good.
Amazing.
Lorraine does the thumb up. That's good.
Download it today and start playing with it. In fact, maybe you could have one of your students download it, and they'll learn how to use it, and then they can put up a tutorial on how to use it, or work with you on how to use it. So I would take advantage of students being at home to teach me how to use Flipgrid. So there you go. There's Stacy Rochan's work. Okay, next idea. And so for example, when the teacher was commenting on all the kids doing different media to build their buildings, you could organize all the media in a Flipgrid so that kids could see all the kids in one place. And you'd have all your buildings organized, like these kids have organized their the calculus assignment. Okay. Let me go. Now I'm going to go to one that is really complicated in a way. I'm going to go to perusal. This is my favorite one. Let me show you the web address. This is where you download this one. Now, perusal is purposely misspelled. 2 L's. Peruse all. So get the misspelling correct. This is developed at Harvard by a friend of mine named Eric Mazur. This is the most amazing text interpretation tool I've ever seen. In fact, I have to make it a little bit smaller on my screen. And I'm going to show you a tutorial that I found on YouTube, which is going to show you about perusal. Let me just explain the problem. The problem is the average Harvard student only does 20 to 30% of their reading. And it's not very good, right? And I can vouch for that. I had one. My son did it. And and Harvard professors know the content. What Harvard professors don't know are their students' questions. So you walk into a classroom, you know the subject, but you don't know how each student is interpreting at any given moment, especially if they're reading at home. No idea. Perusal makes student thinking visible, and it turns out that Harvard kids jumped to 80, 90% of the reading. You get more reading. And the reason you get more reading with perusal, here, I'll give it to you as the way my daughter explained it. She always bought used textbooks when she went to university. And I thought she was being frugal. So I was complimenting her one day that saving how much money she was saving me. And she said, Dad, I'm not saving you money. That's not my purpose. I need to get the used textbooks because the notes of other kids are in those textbooks. And those books are more valuable to me because I can see other kids' notes. And I look for the best notes when I go to the used bookstore. And I buy those textbooks. So this is what happens with perusal. While kids read, they can highlight an image or text, and they write their thoughts and their questions in the margin, and the next kid that comes along sees that, and the next kid, and the next kid. So kids see the commentary of the other kids. And here, I'll play the tutorial so you can get a sense of this.
If I click on one of my courses, I will see all of the reading assignments that I gave my students.
Here, let me zoom
Let's have
in.
a look at one of my assignments.
This happens to
When a
be
student would
chemistry.
like to add an
It could be
annotation,
anything.
They can highlight any part of the text and then add their question or comment here. They can also annotate an image. Just have to choose the right icon and then highlight the area of interest. And again, add their comment or question here. Any parts that are highlighted in yellow means that there are annotations for that area. So if I click on one, you can see that there's a conversation that's being held between my students. If I click on this icon here, I'll get to see where all of the conversations are in this reading assignment. And the numbers along the right-hand side indicate how many annotations there are in that conversation. There are also these icons, these question marks and check marks. A question mark means that there is more than one student interested in that question. For example, if I was to go to this one here, a student highlighted this area and asked a question. 2 other students also found this question helpful. Check marks indicate when a certain comment was helpful for a student. If I click on this one here, there was a question that was asked and a student answered the question. 2 other students found this comment helpful. By going back to the list of conversations, you kind of get an idea of where the hot spots were in the reading assignments. There's some interesting information that you can obtain for each of your reading assignments. If you scroll to the bottom, you can see that there is a nice summary. It gives you an idea of how many minutes the students spent on reading your document, how many comments were added, how many questions were added, and the most upvoted annotations. You can also find some analytics and a confusion report. In terms of the analytics, you can get a summary of all of the grades for the students who did the reading assignment. You can have a look at this time heat map. It gives you an idea of when the students were engaged in the activity, and it's usually right before a deadline. You can see how many minutes the students spend on average for each page. So this way it's an indication of which topics the students might be more interested in. You can also get a student activity report. Here you'll have a list of all of your students, the amount of time they spent doing the reading assignment, and how many annotations they added. You can also get a confusion report. Based on the annotations that were made, perusal will give you 3 topics. 3 topics that the students had troubles with or found interesting, as well as the annotations that were added to those conversations. This would be useful in preparing for your lecture. This way you'll know when to slow down and have perhaps a more thorough discussion. How are students engaged in perusal? First off, students can get responses to their questions from instructors as well as their peers. Each annotation is actually scored, and the scores are combined together to give them an overall grade for their reading assignments. The scoring is actually based on effort and engagement. It's done by the platform itself, not by the instructor. If instructors include the perusal grades in their course mark, that will help to engage the students more. The overall grade for each reading assignment is based on 4 criteria. The first one is the quality of the annotations. The more thoughtful their annotations, the higher the scores. It's also based on how many annotations they make and whether or not they meet the minimum number required by the instructor. Did they also complete the assignment in time? And lastly, where were the annotations made? If all of them were made in only one part of the document, then it suggests that the students didn't actually read the entire document. A common question that you may encounter from your students is, what if I don't have any questions or comments to make? My answer to that is usually for them to elaborate on a specific topic, or can they relate this to something else that they've seen in the course, or in another course in a different discipline? The maximum grade that a student can achieve in a reading assignment is 3.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. This is free. You can put in any text you want. You can put in PDFs, you can put in articles, you can put in content from the web, you can put in examples of former student essays. You can create literally anything you want with text and images. And what's fascinating, because I've been watching this for a couple of years now, is even though it was developed for university content, I'm convinced that we can use this in 2nd grade. And that my daughter's motivation to figure out what are the other kids thinking and what are the other kids' questions actually can be motivating for you to want to read more as you see the comments of classmates. But maybe for teachers, the most important part of this is you get this amazing amount of data analysis in different patterns. How many questions? Where were the questions? And by the way, what this video did not show is you can download all the student responses into Excel. So you can see what are all the questions one student asked? What are all the questions the class asked? And you can sort them. It's just an amazing, powerful data analytic engine for teachers to learn more about how their students interpret text. Oh, I should have asked. How many people are using Perusal, Jackie? Any?
Well, currently nothing in the chat. I'm sure folks will chime in if they are. I think the one thing we always have to consider here in New York, we have a new law called Ed Law 2D, and that is the law protecting student data privacy. So websites and platforms and free like this have to go through a process to become Ed Law 2D compliant according to the state and be used by our schools. Until they are, our schools can't use them. So I have to see if Perusal is one of those platforms that is Ed Law 2D compliant. And if not, I have to ask them to become Ed Law 2D compliant so that we can access their tool.
Right. I do know on the website, Jackie, it says that it is FERPA. I'll have to go back and find it. Okay. It's FERPA compliant. I don't know how close FERPA is to the New York standard. Is it close?
I mean, it should be relatively close. I don't know exactly what the difference is. It's just a matter of making sure student data, that they comply with the student data, release and use of student data, that they're not releasing data and not using it for any reason. So
I can send a quick email if you want. I'll ask these guys for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Say the name of the New York standard again.
Ed Law 2D. ED Law 2D, as in dog.
2D. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, Perusal could also be used for staff development. So imagine you're improving writing teachers' response to student work. And you can collect maybe 10, 12 essays of students, create one document in Perusal of the 10, 12 essays, and have all the teachers, 10 teachers, go through the essays in Perusal and give their feedback. Mm-hmm. And then all the teachers could see all the teachers' response. So Perusal is not only good for learning about students and how they reflect on content, but it also, I think, is a really powerful tool if you're designing staff development, especially if you're doing any staff development online, like we are, situation right now. If I had Perusal set up and everybody had a Perusal account, we could have gone through one of my books online. Mm-hmm. And I would have known all the questions, and rather than just present the material from scratch. So I think it's got this dual use of a great staff development tool and a great student tool. We'll have to find out if it's Ed Law 2D. Okay. Any questions on Perusal, Jackie, that you see?
None right now in the chat, but I'm sure questions will come along.
Yeah, there's nothing like Perusal. And I will give you that link, by the way. Let's see, that tutorial. I'm trying to see if this is the part where it says FERPA. No, I'll find it for you, Jackie. Okay, next idea. I'm going to show you an article. This is off my website, which is novemberlearning.com. And I'm fascinated by kids taking pictures. I bet there's a bunch of people on this call who have kids taking pictures and sharing those pictures with friends and maybe their teacher, and maybe even teachers have asked kids to take pictures. I'd love to hear some stories like that. But this is a math teacher who years ago I taught to use your cell phone to take pictures, because one of the big ideas in pedagogy is something called a messy problem. A messy problem is where you don't give kids everything they need to know to solve a problem. It's almost counterintuitive. Ordinarily, a teacher would prepare kids, you give them all the right information they need to take a test or do their homework, but messy problems fascinate me. And a messy problem can be a photograph. So this photograph is, where's the perfect bunt? If you understand American baseball, there are two triangles between players here, and you find the midpoint of the two triangles, and that's the perfect bunt. You really have to think about organizing the problem yourself. But giving a photograph where every kid solves the same problem is not as creative as giving a photograph, here's a cup, and then say to kids, design your own problem, rather than tell them what's the volume of the cup. So I want to show people what happened in this classroom. The first student who tackles this puts in a vertical, puts in a radius. This is the kid did this, not the teacher. And the kid finds an ice cube on the web with good, numbers describing the size of the ice cube, and says, if we put 3 cubes in with 1 inch left, will the cup overflow? Well, that problem is so complicated. This is a geometry class. And to understand this problem, you have to understand the displacement of ice, which is a physics problem. Even though geometry is the application to do the calculations, but you have to understand some physics to solve problems. And this kid was taking physics. So the teacher was just blown away by how complex this problem was by giving a messy problem. And this is what happens. The concept of messy problems can often lead to a student designing a problem that the teacher does not understand how to solve. And that was the case. My friend, this is Jessica Cavaness, the teacher, Jessica, and Jessica didn't know about displacement of ice. So she had to go learn how much displacement is there when you drop an ice cube. And it's 0.9 something, by the way, for those of you interested. And, the Titanic, icebergs. And, but then Jessica realized that by giving kids messy problems, having them design their own, she ended up teaching students how she learns. This is really important, because most of her teaching prior to doing messy problems, where she already knew the answer. She never really taught kids how she learns. She taught kids what she already knew. And she now believes that teaching kids how she learns might even be more powerful than teaching what you already know. And I'll tell you that Jessica was Teacher of the Year within 1 year of doing this. Her kids were solving all kinds of problems, using their cell phones to take pictures of the world. She empowered them to design their own. And wherever they were going, they were taking photographs of geometry problems. It's an amazing opportunity. In fact, I'll tell you what, for those of you on Twitter, if you type in Jessica Cavaness, that's her name. On Twitter account, I helped her get a Twitter account, so I know. Jessica Cavaness, Mrs. J. Cavaness on Twitter, and you'll see her website. I haven't looked at this for a while, but chances are, if you're if you're a math teacher, she has all kinds of photographs she's collecting about math problems. It's just fascinating Twitter feed. There's Jessica. So that fascinates me. Messy problems, kids taking photographs, sharing them together, kids designing their own problems, and teachers having to figure out, oh my gosh, how am I going to learn how to solve that problem, even though it's in my subject? So I'm just fascinated by a combination of cell phone, photographs, and messy problems. Is anybody collecting photographs kids are taking?
Alan, I don't have any answers to that yet, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
How would you use this for alternative high school English classes?
I used to be principal of an alternative high school.
Really?
English classes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, name a. Okay, we'll make something up. Grapes of Wrath, Kill a Mockingbird. Pick something, right? Pick. So you say to kids, okay, in this novel, I would like you to find images that reflect on a concept. It could be something like losing a friend. It could be anything. And kids have to go out and start shooting photographs, maybe even staging their own, that reflect how they're interpreting a novel. If your colleague wants to give me a specific curricula, I'll do that.
How about Lord of the Flies?
Pardon me?
Lord of the Flies.
Oh, well, that one, easy. Lord of the Flies. So kids are playing video games. Let's just say kids are playing video games. And what's that big one? Oh, shoot. The most popular game in the world right now.
Grand Theft Auto. I don't know. I'm out of practice.
Well, teams of kids, you log in with like 100 other kids.
Oh,
and
Fortnite.
You have your ear set on, your microphone.
Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite. That's it, Fortnite. So Fortnite, you beat up other kids. It's Lord of the Flies at a huge scale.
Right.
So you get kids who are playing Fortnite to capture images off of a Fortnite game, and then they have to reflect on the comparison between the adrenaline rush of what kids were feeling in Lord of the Flies with Fortnite. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Things like that. I mean, there's no limit. I don't think there's no limit. Now, I don't know anything about Lord of the Flies, and I don't know anything about Fortnite, but I have a feeling they connect. All right. Let's see. How much stuff? I got 8 minutes left. All right. I'm going to do a first grade. I'll do one more. Yeah, I'll do one more. Oh, by the way, Jackie, can I mention my Chinese project with Perusal?
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to connect some kids in China where they do read To Kill a Mockingbird and some other American novels with kids in the United States who want to read those books. So in Perusal, so that when you wake up, in New York, you'll see what the kids in China added the night while you were sleeping. So we're going to make some global collaborations happen with Perusal. And if you're interested, you got kids that are interested at that level, that'd be high school. Please let Jackie know, because we're looking to recruit some teachers with students who want to have a book club with kids in China using Perusal. All right, there, I gave my little adverb, my ad. Okay. Now I want to show a first grade teacher who actually does use Twitter. And I'm really sorry about this. I had this set up, but my Zoom is wiping out my Cassidy Twitter class. I can find it quickly. Cassidy, Mrs. Cassidy's class. So those of you following with me, you can go to her Twitter account and I'll just show you. So here's her class. And now she's retired. So This is a couple years old, but it's fun. These are pictures of kids' work. Now, sometimes, oh, and she's Canadian. So Canadians don't have the same laws as we do. They put in kids' pictures and faces, but you could just do artwork, no photographs. And so the kids take photographs of their learning. And every week they have a meeting and they reflect on which photographs represent their best learning. And then Kathy puts that up on their Twitter account. And that's kind of cool because the parents can see it and all of that. But what's really cool is who she's following. This is really important. 5. Kathy's following 5 classrooms around the world. One's in Vietnam, one's in Argentina, one's in Italy, west coast of Vancouver. So maybe we'll go take a look at Vietnam. This is the Vietnam kids. They're doing the same thing. All the teachers around the world doing the same thing. They have kids sharing their learning. And the other kids from different countries see what these kids are doing. So here, this is random, right? So here you have a kid who's making a video camera out of junk. And the kids in Kathy's classroom, by the way, she teaches in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. So the Canadian kids see the Vietnamese kids and they get all excited about what the Vietnamese kids are doing and they want to build it. So what she's really doing is she's building this global network where kids learn what other kids around the world are learning. And that means that her expectations are going up because if you told Kathy that first graders could make video cameras out of junk, she might say it's not possible. But after the kids see it and they want to do it, then it's too late. You got to do it. So I'm fascinated by this. She also has this great process where a kid will say to her, I want to make this video camera. They're doing it in Vietnam. Will you help me? And Kathy says, I don't know how to make the video camera. And so she has the Skype addresses of these classrooms. So they can Skype the kids in Vietnam, and the kids in Vietnam teach the kids in Canada how to make the video camera. So maybe this is for going back, but certainly teachers today, while you're home, you have a chance to find the accounts of teachers all around the world who teach what you teach. And you can see what they're doing with their classrooms. And there's an opportunity for you to start following these teachers and get ideas for your own class when you go back, or even now. You could give this, because this is stuff that you make at home in this one particular example. And I think it's fascinating that you could tell your kids, hey, I learned this from Vietnam. This is what a first grade class in Vietnam is doing. Would you like to do it too? So it's kind of exciting because kids want to do what other kids can do. And I think we should just be more global anyway, whether it's COVID-19 or not. This kind of stuff fascinates me. Here, let me, so we have about 2 minutes, Jackie. Are there any questions? I hope I pushed the envelope for some. I'm a little concerned that
we definitely have. We don't have any questions at this time, but I think that you've given us a lot of food for thought and a lot of ideas to consider trying once we, look at our resources, what we have and what we have available to us, like can we use perusal? I look forward to hearing if they are at Law 2D compliant. That would be great. I think it's a good time for folks to consider how we can be creative because we've had to. we've had to be creative in how we deliver content and information and reach out to students now and stay connected. It's not something we have to think about necessarily before. And we've been immersed in this now for, I think this is the 5th week, maybe 4th or 5th week. So, the more ideas we have on how to keep it interesting and keep the kids engaged and use different tools to develop engagement, that'll be important. Someone just said, Jeff said, love some of the resources presented. Thanks, Alan. So we definitely have folks grateful for some of the ideas that you've shared with us today.
Well, I'm not surprised by the first poll question, that expectations have not gone up during this time, at least in the poll. And I'd like to think that for some kids, having this extra time at home with no boundaries, we could actually raise expectations. And Minecraft, perusal, linking kids to kids around the world, messy problems, like the difference between the connection between Fortnite and what was that book, that English kids beating up the kid book? Yeah, Lord of the Flies. I think we can do some things we've never done before. And I'd like to think that if we had more preparation for this crisis, we might have even been raising expectations. So Jackie, thanks again for inviting me on.
Thank you.
I love sharing. I loved hearing about other people. Hope it was useful for some.
I think so. We're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat. So thank you. Thank you for always being willing to share your expertise with our region. And this was great. I'm excited to try some of these things myself. So thank you.
Yeah. Let me know if you try we'll talk later, Jackie, anyway.
Yes, we'll talk.
I love catching up. Okay, bye for now.
All right, bye. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.